Okay, so today we are going to review the distributive property, and we are going to go over 1 and 2 step equations. So this video is going to be about 20 minutes, and you are supposed to be watching this on Monday for the rest of the week. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is practice distributing like we learned last week. So on this first one, you can see that I take -5 times the 2x I have in parentheses. And then I'm also going to take that -5 times the +9 that I have. And that's going to give me -10x and -45. So my final expression is going to be -10x minus 45. So I'm going to do the same thing on the next problem. But I'm going to actually skip number 6 and go to number 7. So I'm going to take 1/2 times 6t, or -1/2 times 6t. It's going to give me -3t. And then I'm going to take -1/2 times the +2 I have, and that's going to give me a -1. So my final expression is going to be -3t minus 1. So just remember, you're multiplying everything inside the parentheses by the number outside the parentheses. So I know that some of you are like adding somehow, and that is wrong. So you are only using multiplication if you have the distributive property, okay? So here I take -10 times -4, which does not give me -40, even though that's what I wrote. It gives me a +40. That's my bad. And then I'm going to take -10 times -2j, and that gives me 20j. So my final expression is going to be 20j plus 40. Then I'm going to come over to number 9. I'm going to do -3 times -p, which is going to give me a +3p. And then -3 times a +7, which gives me a -21. So my final expression is going to be 3p minus 21. And lastly, I'm going to do -2 times 6d, which is going to give me a -12d. And then -2 times -11, which gives me a +22. So I'm going to have -12d plus 22. So on the bottom here, I'm just going to do 11 and 12. But I'm going to go ahead and fill in what I know are the missing side lengths of this rectangle. Because remember, these two right here have to be the same. Your two widths and your two lengths have to be the same. So I have x plus 6 plus 3x minus 2 plus another x plus 6 plus another 3x minus 2. And all I'm going to do here is combine like terms. And I see that I have 2 3x's and 2 x's, which is going to end up giving me 8x. Then I'm going to look at all my constants, because remember, those are like terms too. And I have 6 plus 6 minus 2 minus 2, which is going to give me a +8. And I'm going to get 8x plus 8 as my expression. On number 12 over here, it's a little more confusing. So it's important for us to remember that this entire line equals 10x minus 5. And we know that part of the line is 2x plus 7. So to find the missing piece, I'm going to subtract 2x plus 7 from 10x minus 5. So I'm going to end up having to distribute a negative to 2x plus 7. So that's going to give me 10x minus 5 minus 2x minus 7, which is going to give me 8x minus 15, or 13, sorry, which actually shouldn't even be 13, should be 12. I did that math wrong. It should be 8x minus 12. That's my bad. I can't add. But yeah, so basically I added this negative 5 and this negative 7. I should have got negative 12, not negative 13. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to solve a one-step equation. So in order to solve an equation, you have to isolate the variable and keep each side balanced. Basically, what that means is you're trying to get x by itself, and what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And we're going to use a lot of inverse operations. So we can think of those as the opposite. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. The opposite of subtraction is addition. Opposite of multiplication is division. And the opposite of division is multiplication. So inverse operations can be thought of as the opposite or as undoing each other. So we know that addition undoes subtraction. Multiplication undoes division. So that's how I'm going to ask you to think about it, which is why I highlighted that second part, because you're going to hear me say that more than the opposite. So I'm going to do some example problems for you down the bottom here. And I'm going to go through the first two together. And then I want you to try the next, or we'll do the first three together. And then I want you to do the second three on your own. So here I've got 4x equals negative 16. So to undo the 4x, which is multiplication, I use division and divide both sides by 4, which gives me x equals negative 4. Here, I have addition. And remember, I'm trying to get x by itself. So I have to get rid of anything that is on the same side as the x. So in that case, it's a plus 9. So to get rid of the plus 9, I am going to undo that addition using subtraction. And I'm going to subtract a 9 from that side. But remember, I also have to keep it balanced. So I'm going to subtract a 9 from the other side too. So positive 9 minus 9 is going to give me 0. So I'm going to be left with just x. And then 13 minus 9 is going to equal 4. So x is going to be equal to 4. So down here on number 4, I've got division. So I have x divided by 5. So to undo division, I use multiplication. So I'm actually going to multiply each side by 5. So these two 5s are going to cancel out and leave me with just an x. And then I'm going to come to the other side and do negative 6 times 5. So it's balanced. So remember, what you do to the left, you have to do to the right. And I'm going to get x equals negative 30. So now I want you to pause the video, and I want you to do the next 3 on your own. So now that you've paused the video, I'm going to let this play and work through the last 3 so you can check your work. Okay, so one-step equations can also include rational numbers, so that's like decimals and fractions. So we're going to work through a couple down here together. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you to skip the ones I want you to skip. So if you want to do 8, 9, 11, and 12, feel free, but I am not going to work those out. So I'm just going to do 7 and 10. So here I've got 6x equals negative 16. 6x is multiplication, okay? I want you guys to understand that if there is a number attached to a letter, so a coefficient attached to a variable, that is multiplication. And to get rid of this number, we are going to divide every time, okay? So you always divide by your coefficient. And we're going to do that on both sides. So I'm going to take negative 16 over 6. And that's going to give me x equals negative 16 over 6, which simplifies to negative 8/3. And down here on number 10, you can see I've got x divided by 3. So I'm going to use the opposite of division, which is multiplication. And I'm going to multiply both sides times 3. You can see my 3's on the left are going to cancel out and leave me with just x. And that's going to give me x equals negative 21. So number 13 says, if a chocolate pie is divided into 6 equal slices, and each slice has 280 calories, how many slices or calories are in the whole pie? So we know we have 6 equal pieces. And we know that one piece equals 280 calories. And we need to know the total number of calories. So I know that if I take the number of calories in one slice, and I multiply by the number of slices, if you look, these units here are actually going to cancel each other out, and I'm going to be left with just calories. Okay, so that tells me I'm doing it right. And I'm going to do 280 times 6. Which gives me 1,680. So my solution is going to be 1 pie has 1,000, or a total of 1,680 calories. So now we're going to talk about two-step equations, and basically the only difference between a one-step and a two-step is that instead of only using multiplication or division or addition and subtraction, you're now going to use both. So you're going to have a constant and a coefficient and a variable all in the same equation. So you're basically just doing both of the steps we learned how to do with one steps all in one equation, okay? So two-step equations follow the same rules for isolating the variable, and you're thinking of it as undoing operations. So this list I'm about to go through with you is the list I want you to go through every single time you follow a two-step equation. So the first thing you're going to check for every single time is addition or subtraction, and you're going to undo that. You're going to get rid of anything that's added or subtracted. Then you're going to worry about the multiplication or division and get rid of that number. And then at that point, you've isolated the variable. So x should be by itself. And then you're ready to solve the equation and check your work. So I'm going to work through two examples up at the top here. So the first thing I do is you see I notice that I'm adding a 9. And if you look up here, step 1 is undo addition or subtraction. So I'm going to undo that addition right there by subtracting a 9 from both sides. So I'm going to get 5x on this side because 9 minus 9 is 0. 5x equals 8. Then I'm going to undo the multiplication or division. So I've got multiplication here. So I'm going to use division to get rid of the 5. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So I'm going to get 5x over 5 equals 8 over 5. My 5's cancel out, and I am left with x is equal to 8 over 5. And you cannot simplify that, so you can just leave it as a fraction. I want you all to get in the habit of leaving these as improper fractions instead of changing them to a mixed number. I prefer to see it written this way. Makes my life easier. So you could write this as like 1 3/5, but I would rather you just keep it as 8/5. Plus, it's less work on you to just leave it that way, so just do it that way. So for this one, I'm going to come over here. I see I'm subtracting a 3, so I'm going to undo that because that's step 1 by adding 3 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0, so I'm left with negative 2x over here. 13 plus 3 is 16. I'm going to divide by negative 2 on both sides to get my x by itself. And I'm going to be left with x is equal to negative 8. So I'm going to work through number 1 here so you can see how to check your work. And then I'm going to have you do 2 and 3 on your own. So same thing. Don't let it trip you up if the constant or the number that's added or subtracted comes first. So even though this is written as 10 plus 3k, I can still subtract this 10. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides to undo that addition. So that's 10 minus 10 is 0, so I'm going to be left with 3k over here. And 22 minus 10 is 12, so I'm going to get 3k equals 12. So then I have to undo this multiplication. So I'm going to use division. So I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. And that's going to give me k is equal to 4. How I check this, okay, I'm going to plug 4 into the equation up here for k. So instead of doing 3k, I'm going to write 10 plus 3 times 4 equals 22. And I'm going to see if that's right. So that ends up giving me 10 plus 12, which equals 22. So my answer is right. Okay, so you're going to practice plugging that answer you got in here to check your work, okay? So I'm going to give you time to work through number 2, and then we're going to go through it, and then you'll work through number 3. So there's number 2. So go ahead and pause the video and work that out. Okay, now that you've paused the video, watch how I do it so you can check your answers. Okay, and here is number 3. So go ahead and pause and work that one out and then check your answer. So now that you've paused, here's me working out number 3. Alright guys, I'm going to work out 3 more example problems. So I'm going to do number 2, number 3, and then 1 more. So I'm going to go ahead and do number 2. I've got 4x minus 8 equals 32. I'm going to get rid of that subtraction by using addition on both sides. And that's going to leave me with 4x equals negative 24. Then I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides to undo that multiplication. And that's going to give me x equals negative 6. And that is my answer. So that's what I'm going to put in this table for solution. So for number 3, I've got negative 6 plus 9 equals 25. So I'm going to undo that addition by using subtraction. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And that is going to give me negative 6x equals 16. So I'm going to divide by negative 6 on both sides. And that's going to give me x equals 16 over negative 6, or x equals negative 16/6, which simplifies to x equals negative 8/3. And lastly, I've got number 6, where I've got x divided by 6 plus 2 equals negative 16. So I really want you all to be comfortable with these because I know the way that it's written as a fraction might trip some people up. So really pay attention to how I do these, okay? Because they're important. You will see a lot like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of that 2 that's added by using subtraction on both sides. And that's going to give me x over 6 equals negative 18. And to get rid of that that division by 6, I'm going to multiply by 6 on both sides. So I'm going to use the opposite. And that's going to give me x equals negative 108. Okay, so that's what I'm going to write for my solution. All right, so that is it for 1 and 2 step equations. We're going to get into multi-step equations next week. We will be doing some more videos with example problems and stuff, so be on the lookout for that. And as always, please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.